Hello, and thank you very much for attending our little soiree. We have a lot of kind of standards for you today. Nothing 20th century, 21st century, right? We're a quarter through the 21st century. We will be playing Mozart, Bach, and Beethoven. So, first of all, I want to introduce our little trio. This is Jian, and this is Mina, and they are wonderful players who are local here in the College Park or Washington D.C. area, and we met them last year. My mother, my sister, and I did not want to play last year, so they were drafted because my mother always wants music, and we thought, well, you're drafted. Now you're in here forever. So anyway, I wanted to. They played so beautifully, and while we were talking last year, Jian was talking about like how her violin had some problems. So she flew to Kansas City, where I live, and she got it really kind of nicely fixed by my guy there, who was like just amazing luthier. And he did such a great job, and we got the nice visit. We got to spend all day together, and it was wonderful. So anyway, the first piece that you're going to hear is a larghetto from a Mozart piano trio. Now, he only wrote a few of them, which is kind of unusual because he wrote 41 symphonies. He wrote a lot of operas. He wrote a ton of string quartets. I think he only wrote like 5 piano trios. This is the third one, and he wrote them kind of later in his life. This is called Herschel 502, and he wrote it in 1786, and he died in 1791. So it was 5 years before he died. Now let me talk to you, since there's not a lot of research on this piece. Let me talk to you a little about Mozart. I always think, like, we think of Mozart as this great genius, right? And everybody thinks, oh, well, he's kind of in this hallowed thing. But during his time near the end of his life, he was not really appreciated in Vienna, where he was. So a lot of his pieces had to be premiered in Prague, in the Czech Republic. Back then it was called Bohemia. And so his opera Don Giovanni, which is this amazing opera, the Viennese were like, we don't want to listen to your old stuff anymore. So he had to premiere it in Prague. And he was so taken because they were so excited. They were like, wow, this is really amazing. And then they were like, he was like a huge celebrity, that he came back and he said, I'm going to write your city a symphony later. And so a year later, he came up with a symphony called, this number 38, and it's called the Prague Symphony. And to me, it's my favorite Mozart symphony. If you have a chance to listen to it later, it's really just beautiful, inventive, and you can totally tell it's like, I want to thank the people of Prague by giving this piece to you. And so I think it was another symphony, or I think later symphonies were premiered there, because the Viennese, they didn't appreciate his. Isn't that crazy? Like, could you imagine not appreciating Mozart? It's like I can't even think about that. So anyway, the second movement of Herschel 502. You are witnessing the debut performance of my brother. Now, when we were growing up, my brother played the violin, right? And my brother was like, of course, my sister is a violist, and she's a fantastic violist. And as you can see, I'm playing the cello. And so we had a string quartet in our family. My father played violin, first violin, my brother played second violin, my sister played viola, and I played cello. And at a certain point, my brother just kind of quit. And he went on to have a real career in a real, in a real life, instead of living in fantasy land as a musician. But a couple of years ago, he like texts my sister and I, and he says, "I'm going to play. I'm starting the electric bass." And I was going like, and then both of us were like, "Double bass? You're going to play the double bass now?" It's like he's like, "No, the electric bass. Instead of this, it's like this. So we're like kind of looking at him like, "Oh, okay, good. That's great. You get." It's another hobby of yours, on top of like all the other 67 hobbies that he already has. But we were like happy because he's going back into music and everything. So he like sends us videos of himself practicing and just playing stuff. And you know, like my sister is of course the positive one, and she's going like, "Oh, it sounds so great," you know, blah blah blah. And then of course me being the teacher, I'm going like, tune the damn bass before you like send those videos. It's driving me crazy, you know, because both my sister and I have perfect pitch. Just tune it, you know. So he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm really." Yeah, I know. Anyway, he's going to be. Well, he gets set up. I'm going to tell you a little bit more. So he's going to play a Bach minuet. Minuet is. It's always parts. Actually, so the first minuet, and that's usually is it major or minor, the first one?
What's that?
Major or minor, the first minuet?
It's major.
Okay, so then oftentimes, second minuets are always in the minor. And not only in the minor, they're usually in the parallel minor. So with if you know anything about music theory, which I'm sorry, I'm going to give you a little history. So you have a key, like C major, the relative minor is A minor, right? And so I always like say with my students, I go, for every key, there's a happy key and there's a sad key. And I always like say, for every happy cousin, there's a sad cousin, right? So I was like, are you the sad cousin or the happy cousin? I'm the happy cousin. So I say, so a parallel minor is that if you went from C major to C minor, and that's usually what minuets in Bach's time does, which is really kind of, you know, it's a little, that's the extent of my music theory, because whenever I would attend music theory, my eyelids would get very heavy. Some people love it. I was just too busy practicing, so it's like, anyway, we are now the witness of his world debut. So let's give it up.
Lowered expectations. I'm the only non-musician in the family, so. All right. Like I said, Bach 2 minuets from the cello, Suite Number 1.
Wow.
Okay.
I saw.
Yeah.
Stole my repertoire.
Not a bass piece. It's not a bass piece.
Mrs. Leonardo.
We should do a student discount for you.
It's a great teacher, great student.
Pressure.
Thank you.
So I want to introduce Dr. Lee, who is an amazing pianist, and I want to tell you that in this 2 days that we've been rehearsing, I've learned so much from him in terms of musicality, in terms of phrasing, in terms of so many things. And he's one of my favorite pianists I've ever actually worked with. I've worked with a lot of them, you know, so I really enjoy working with him. So the last piece on the program is a piece by Beethoven, and it's his A major sonata. And I always say that, you know, not only is this one of the greatest, it's the greatest cello sonata he wrote, it might be one of the greatest sonatas of all time he wrote. I'm talking about piano sonatas, he wrote 32, right? And he wrote like 10 violin sonatas, but nothing, I think, even in the violin repertoire comes even close to how great this is. Now I have a theory. I have a really interesting theory about like why Beethoven wrote some of his best music for cello. It's because his best friend was a cellist, and he oftentimes played chamber music with him. And he was also his doctor, so he had nothing but warm feelings for him. So if you think about all the great cello lines, this is a great piece. If you think about Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the second movement, I'm going to get back to Beethoven's Fifth. The slow movement is all cello. The beginning, the end of the last movement of the Ninth Symphony, it all starts with cello. It's all these gorgeous melodies, and I think that he kind of associated the cello with the warm feelings he had for his friend. So I know I'm alone in this theory. It's a little crackpot, but I really believe it. Now, this is Opus 69. Now, this is a kind of an unbelievable time in Beethoven's composition in his tenure. Opus 67 is his Fifth Symphony. Opus 68 is his Sixth Symphony. Opus 69 is this wonderful cello sonata. Opus 70 is the Ghost Trio. That's kind of considered his middle period, but it's like Dr. Lee and I were going through the list from even going from back to 59 to 72, like even 75. It's like it's home run after home, like it's perfect game after perfect game. Like there's not a weak piece in that period. And always there's composers who have like, oh yeah, they didn't put much effort in this, or they weren't super inspired or something. No, this was just like this golden age of Beethoven. This is actually my favorite Beethoven age. So, but anyway, it's a wonderful piece. I hope that you can listen to the entire, because it's 4 movements. Actually, it's considered 3 movements. The slow movement is very short. It's only about 30 measures, and it goes right into the 4th movement. I'm actually going to be performing. If any of you are in Kansas City in November, I'm going to play the whole thing. Actually,
I'm gonna go.
yeah. I'm playing the whole thing, and it's and each movement is like I think it gets better and better and better. So anyway, Opus 69 A major sonata by Beethoven, and thank you very much for coming today. And I hope that you enjoyed our little. It's a shorter concert this year, but I hope you enjoyed it.
Let's eat.
Okay, thank you so much, you came. When my husband built this house, we needed this kind of small home concert. Plus, we built the crab deck. So every summer, we want to eat crayfish to eat. So I prepared lots of steamed crab. So you have to eat enough crab today. So you have to mess your clothes. And thank you so much, great pianist, Mr. Dr. Lee. Every year, who came to visit the mom and present this beautiful, great music. Really, I appreciate it. And Nina and Lucian, they are grand student. Student came from Korea. They are doctors, degree, and they are professional musician. If you needed some small concert, you can invite them to your house or your association or something. And today is I'm really grateful. 95 years old mother still came. She is a music lover. Came from Pennsylvania. Mary's mother. So still she keeps good health. So I really appreciate it. So I wanted to live like you. I'm 90 years old, and I'm going to live 5 more years. How about that? And also, I wanted to introduce the new face. Vicki Henderson is a neighbor, and she brought this great cake for. Here is the music. I think we can feed 100 people. I didn't know that you brought this, Vicki. And John, I met always is walking this neighborhood, and Mary and Mark is a great neighborhood. As long as they live, I wanted to stay in this house. And also, I wanted to introduce Jun's teacher. You are a very great teacher. It's a program music student. You make a great musician to debut today. And his mother was a violinist and studied keyboard. And when Yogu was there, she knows well. And Dr. Chan is almost 60 years friend. Dr. Shin is, Mrs. Shin is both a medical doctor Well, dear friend, old friend, is almost 60 years of friend. So, and I really appreciate everybody. This is my grandson. Henry is graduating. Congratulate his graduation college this year. And so we have plenty of drink, food. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.